Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We are here. We have some games to discuss, some tightening races in the Eastern and Western Conference. We'll start as usual with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So it looks like Hostess has a mint cupcake coming out. It looks really good. Now, when people tell me that Twinkies already did it, it tells me they know nothing about food. So I want to explain now what the difference is between a Twinkie and a Hostess cupcake. Not that I eat them all the time, but in my childhood, obviously I ate a lot of them. Sure. And now it's rare, but I do eat them. So Twinkie is like a sponge cake. It's a sponge cake with filling.
Sure.
The Hostess cupcake is a cupcake, a drier cake. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they still have the vanilla icing, vanilla filling with, it looked like with the mint on top.
No, I think it's green. I think it's green filling.
Oh, it's green filling. Okay, so it's green filling and green on top. Was that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, green on top. Yeah.
Okay, so it's all mint. I'm good with that. The mint and the chocolate is great. Now, if you tell me you did it as a Twinkie with a sponge cake kind of, I don't know if that I'm as excited about that. So I'm glad I never saw it as a Twinkie. I would have passed on that.
Me too. Now, if they would have done it on a ho-ho,
right,
like a mint chocolate, because it's chocolate, and then you have the green filling inside, then I could go for that, or the Suzy Q, or any of the other chocolate ones.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I try to stay away from Hostess cupcakes now because obviously I'm a type 2 diabetic, but every once in a while I'll treat myself, and I prefer the orange flavored ones than
the orange ones are interesting. If I have a choice, I would probably get that over anything. But if I get Hostess, it's usually a Twinkie anyhow, but it's rare. I end up having a few more Drakes these days than Hostess. But here's another thing. So one last thing. Today was my day to go get a Shamrock Shake, right? So I go to get it, and they're like, sorry, there are no Shamrock Shakes.
What?
I've never had this happen.
They ran out?
They didn't say why.
Oh, come on.
And so at the window, I'm like, it's a real shame that you don't have any Shamrock Shakes. And, she was just like, yeah, whatever, move on. It's like they probably have heard it all day. But, there's a line of cars, so I still had to order, right? So then I displaced those calories with some French fries instead. But I was looking forward to a Shamrock Shake, and now I'm not sure I'm going back for one.
Nah, you just go to a different.
I don't know. What if I go back again and they don't have it again?
Go to a different location. There's got to be there's
what if there's a Shamrock Shake shortage in South Jersey? There could be, and they haven't said anything about it.
Yeah, it's like the toilet paper shortage right now.
No, but I'm just saying there could be, Mike. You're not even open to the possibility.
No, I'm not. I mean, I think it was because I remember last year something very similar happened for me. I look forward to getting a Shamrock Shake. It was a Friday night after my Friday night bowling. And I stop at the McDonald's right near the bowling alley, and they said it was 10:30 at night. They said they had shut the shake machine down.
Well, I'm going to tell you that happens sometimes, but that's not what they said here. They just said there's no Shamrock Shakes. It looks like in 2010 there was a shortage.
Funky Cold Zadina says Anchor Bar Shakes. You drink one and you die an hour later. No, you drink one and you die of gunshot wounds.
But apparently in 2010, there was a shortage for Shamrock Shakes. So I kind of wonder, Mike, see, this is where you have to look at history a little bit.
Adam in the chat says, my girlfriend works as a regional manager. Many places under-ordered this year. Well,
God damn it. How do you do that?
Yeah.
That's it. Send that to your girlfriend.
You got to stop that, Russ. You're going to make me cough. Okay. All right. Couple things right after my coughing fit. It's typical to talk about the coronavirus, and we're going to talk about it during the show. But I saw a report that the first famous person was diagnosed with the coronavirus, and it was Harry Potter. Daniel Radcliffe, the actor.
Oh, he has it?
Well, it has the coronavirus, and then. No, El Guapo, I don't. Sorry. As much as you'd like to see me die of the coronavirus.
Let's not go there, okay?
But as typical of the New York Yankees, Russ, Gary Sanchez had back soreness the last couple days. He comes back. He's supposed to bat today. and they told him not to bet because he has, quote, a fever, unquote. And now they're worried he's got the coronavirus.
This is why I was saying on Twitter for the last couple of days, when people are like, well, there's not that many cases, there weren't any tests available. Testing was a problem. Now that more people are being tested, more people are going to come down with it. That's just because they're going to get diagnosed.
Esmir says Voldemort is responsible for this. and Terry GG&G says Mike has the gray virus.
Well, there's no question that shirt is gray. So
no, this is blue.
It's not blue. It's gray.
It's blue.
Whatever, man.
Oh, my God. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2020.
I'm Russ Cohen. That's it. I don't care.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is Blue. And this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Okay, we'll start with the coronavirus update in regards to the NHL. We saw the edict handed out, a joint statement made by the NHL, the NHL and the Professional Hockey Writers Association, along with baseball's professional writers, and I think it was basketball's as well, about the new rules regarding interviewing players. I know yesterday, I wasn't up there, but yesterday the Leafs practiced at Scotiabank Arena, and the media was not allowed into the locker room. They held the press conferences for the players, where they usually have them behind a video board inside the dressing room. This time they had the podium set up like for the playoffs,
right?
For the players to sit there, and that's where Sheldon Keefe usually does his. He wasn't at a podium. I think he was at a table. I'm not sure if it was a podium or a table, but it was in that area in the media room.
I hate it. I totally hate it.
Now, and I told you this, I was watching, like I do most days, the Michael Kay show out of New York City on ESPN radio, and he's on the Yes Network. And, he was a beat reporter in New York for a number of years now, has been a broadcaster, obviously, for broadcasting the Yankee games. His fear is that this is going to be permanent. And maybe that's wrong.
I think that's wrong.
I understand the fear, though.
No, I get the fear. I mean, I do, because there is always a certain amount of animosity with some teams and media. I have more faith in the NHL than maybe he has in Major League Baseball. But to be fair, Major League Baseball has given the greatest access to media for years. I mean, for the times that I was covering, you can go to a game during batting practice and talk to guys. You could talk to guys an hour before the game, which you could do in the NHL too. And then you could talk to guys after the game, but they would leave for that time before a game. They would leave the dugout open for like 2 hours, and you could stroll through and find. I mean, so baseball always had great access. So I don't think this is going to change that. What I hate is there will be no exclusives now. It's impossible. So if you want to do a story, even at practice now, everybody's going to know about it, because the guy's going to have to go to the podium, and everybody's going to know. So for you, unless you get that guy on the phone, which is a lot harder to do, then you're not going to get it. The other thing is, you now will lose out on some of that intensity that guys have the minute they get off the ice and into the locker room, because once you've had a chance to cool off and go to the podium,
sure,
it's hard to get as riled up. So there's that factor. I'm also one of the few media, I feel, that still covers both locker rooms. I like to know what's going on in both. Sometimes I report on it. Sometimes I don't. And now I can do that. But now I've got to sit through 2 teams worth of press conferences, where sometimes I go to the opposing locker room for 1 or 2 players, and then I go to the Flyers locker room for the rest. So now that's changed. And I'm not saying anybody should feel bad. I'm just saying these are the kinds of things when we're writing stories, developing, reporting on it, whether it's on podcasts or on, like I just did on Sirius XM, that it just sort of changes things. And there are people that, deadline wise, we're now, let's say it's Boston, Philly, right? Can a Boston reporter, if the game goes into overtime, wait for like that last guy to come to the podium and still file a story? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely will change the change the operations of different reporters. Now, me, like I've never been somebody who goes for the one-on-one. I've always, I like to throw in a question here or there. So I probably can still do my job, with the current setting, with the setting now with the new restrictions.
Right.
Other reporters, who are columnists who have to file daily or a couple times, 3-4 times a week, where they need that sort of inside stuff, stuff that's written in The Athletic, that's all gleaned from one-on-one interviews. And it's going to be extremely tough for them to have, the access with the new restrictions. So, I mean, I don't think it's the end of the world, but I also hope that it's not going to be a permanent situation, because
I hope it's not for the playoffs, because even though, like you said, that's a playoff format, we're still allowed in the locker room. And to be honest, I get better quotes in the locker room than the 3 guys that they drag out to the podium. But the other thing is, and this is where agents, I think, over time would be upset with this format. As an example, and I just use him as an example, Michael Raffel will never, ever get interviewed the rest of the year, right? Unless he has a hat trick in a game, he's never going to be one of the guys that gets dragged to the podium. And so now you'll never hear from like those bottom 6 guys. Like in Toronto, there's probably 3 or 4 guys you won't hear from now for the rest of the year, unless the Toronto radio gets him for a one-on-one because it's Toronto radio. But otherwise, nobody's going to ask for him.
I don't think anybody's ever asked for Martin Marincin, even when he scored the game-winning goal.
Right. But as an example, his agent would like it if there's a story about Martin Marincin. But if the Leafs media knows we're only getting 3 or 4 guys, for the most part, it's going to be the same 3 or 4 guys most of the time. That's the problem with this.
Now, winding out the story here, yesterday, Santa Clara County, which is where San Jose is, the San Jose Sharks, they placed a limitation on public gatherings to no more than 1,000 people. Now, there have been limitations in other areas that's similar. This is going to be a bit. I mean, it'll be a problem for. Now, I don't. Santa Clara County, I don't think covers San Francisco. I think it just covers San Jose.
Right. That's my. I mean, I don't have a full. I've only been out there twice, so I don't have a great recognition of the whole area.
I was thinking about San Francisco Giants games or Golden State Warrior games, but that's a different county.
Right.
Santa Clara County, I believe, is San Jose, and the Sharks are going on a road trip. Coming back, I think the 19th of March. And at this point, there's a debate of whether they're going to play neutral site games, play games in front of no fans, which we've seen in the Italian soccer leagues. And that's a visual that, if you want to joke about it, that you could say, well, we see that on a Tuesday night in Florida every time, but we're talking about, because
Evander Kane, there was a joke about it today, because he said it would be terrible to play in front of no fans, and everybody's like, well, what about the Thrasher? So that joke's always out there.
Right. But, and Adam says the 49ers play in Santa Clara. Yeah, but it's not the NFL season.
It's not football season. They're not worried about it.
But they're talking about, NFL-wise, they're talking about the draft. If this is bad, the draft was supposed to be in Vegas this year, that they might go back to the old – they might go back to the old phone draft for a year. Just have the commissioner in Vegas, or have him someplace in New York or something like that, and just call in the picks instead of having this massive gathering because of the scare. These are now. But
again, they've only set this for 3 weeks. I think they did that for a reason, because they probably had some idea that maybe at that point there'll be enough testing. It'll be more contained. That's the hope. You never know with something like this. Completely unpredictable. But I think that's it. If you remember me saying like a week and a half ago, if this were Seattle, they would have already not been playing there and would have already had to have made other arrangements. I don't even think they would have played an empty stadium there, to be honest. Right. But maybe they would have. Now, I would rather, and we were talking about it offline, I would rather than play, like, if you're playing the Canadians, play in Montreal. It's an extra game. Those fans are going to show up. Those fans, you give money to charity. You're not going to get the same kind of gate, but you won't have an empty crowd either, because you'll have people showing up for this game. And I think if they might only have to do 1 or 2 of them. Nobody is saying it's going to last that 3 weeks. They're just saying it could, right? So they're lucky they have the road trip. and then you kind of see where it's at, because other cities could have the same problem. Again, when more people get tested, that's when we're going to know. That's the problem with this whole thing is I think some of the public may have had like a false sense of security, and I think the president may have too, because we didn't have a lot of people testing for it. But then again, when you hear that at the end of this week, we'll have 75,000 tests, that's nothing compared to some of these other countries that have tested everybody. Like South Korea basically says it's contained, or China. I think China said it was contained now.
Sure it is.
No, but it might be because they've been working at it for a month. We haven't. And I did see something interesting. I want to applaud Massachusetts because they just passed a law that said anybody who needs to get tested, it'll be free in that state. I think it needs to be that for everything, because in that press conference yesterday for the administration, mentioning it pretty harshly that it would be in commercial labs. Not everybody can afford a commercial lab. Not everybody has health coverage. We know about that. I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but I'm just saying maybe Congress will get involved in this and actually pass it, because we're all kind of wondering what's the $8 billion for if the test isn't free. And I give applaud to Bill Gates because he has a free test. Well, I think it's a free test. We don't know yet, but he is creating a test right now, and I think it's going to be done soon. And most likely it'll be funded by him. And so, I give him credit. So people can look out for that too, because we're all going to know somebody at some point, Mike, that either has it or knows somebody that has it.
Well, apparently, according to Flyer Fan 16, Daniel Radcliffe does not have it. According to him, it's a hoax post. Okay. Fake account. So Hockey Insider reported that Daniel Radcliffe had the coronavirus. I mean, I wish these friggin' people would get a life.
I wish they would too. I mean, it's really horrible, and that they're going to do something like that. Because honestly, Daniel Radcliffe can come online and laugh it off. If his family gets word of that or whatever, they're going to start worrying.
Yeah, I mean, it's stupid.
I just want to give one simple word out there to those people. Don't be an asshole. All right, go ahead.
Okay, this is this has got to be way down on the concern list for the San Jose Sharks. A reporter, I won't mention his name, but he says, I feel bad for Joe Thornton. For whatever reason, he wasn't traded at the deadline. Now he won't get the emotional send-off in his final home game because of the stupid coronavirus.
That guy needs to get a life.
I mean, are you kidding me? He's got.
Thornton would laugh at that. He'd be like, "Come on, man."
You know what he's got to thank? He's got to thank the Sharks for the millions of dollars that he has earned over the 10, 11, 12 years that he's been there. I mean, come on.
Don't worry, they'll have Joe Thornton back to sign that ridiculous one-day contract that they have people sign. Don't worry.
But when he signs with the Leafs next summer, okay,
that's predictable.
Yes. Okay. Last night, 5 games in the NHL. We'll start with the one that both of us watched a little bit. You watched it more than I did, which was the Sabres and Capitals at the KeyBank Center here in Buffalo. A lot of empty seats, by the way, and it wasn't because of the virus. It was just because the Sabres suck, and they had lost 6 in a row. But they did win a 3-2 shootout game over the Capitals. Capitals were down 2-0, came back, tied it up late, and I think it was Verano scored the tying goal. Had their opportunities late in regulation and in overtime. But you picked up on something at the end of regulation that particularly irked you.
Yeah, it really did. It really burned my britches. When the game was sort of winding down and Buffalo just could not get the puck out, Washington was taking shots. There was about 30 seconds left, and they just controlled the game, right? But then there was about 6 seconds left, and Backstrom took the puck, and he just backed out, and he just kept backing out until 6 seconds went off the clock, right, and they went into overtime. I hate that. Now, of course, Flyers fans were probably throwing stuff at their TV, but that is what the race is like now, because a team like the Capitals knows, all right, look, let's just go in and get our point. We'll worry about the rest, and then we could just throw caution to the wind and see what happens. But at this point, let's just get our point and not risk a turnover. But I hate that. It took out any chance of a last-second goal where they could be real heroics rather than maybe just winning in a shootout.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've heard from Eck numerous times about the failings of the 3-point game, and that is one of them. It's like when you're a team and you're desperate for points, or a team and you're in a race and you're playing in a game late in the third period, you're holding on for dear life. And I mean, I that loser point is incredibly important. And once you get to overtime, you can't lose it. You bank that point. So then you can be a little more frisky and try to earn the second point. Not that you're throwing away the second point, but you've got that 1 point bank, in the bank.
Yeah. The only takeaway that was good for the Sabres was it was a hell of a game for Rasmus Dahlin. The shootout goal was an amazing fake, and people should watch it. It just shows the amount of talent this guy has. The part that I didn't get, and this is where I think Ralph Kruger has to work on his coaching, the first group of Sabres out on the power play in overtime did not include Marcus Johansson. And instead, it included Olofsson. And it's like, look, I get that Olofsson had all of these power play goals, but Johansson is a veteran. You brought him in there to make a difference. Why are you playing the rookie? Like, it made no sense. And even you said you didn't get it.
Well, what I didn't get, and I've seen it numerous times with the Sabres late in regulation when they pulled the goalie, is having Rasmus Ristolainen in front of the net.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Because Rasmus Ristolainen has the hands of a defenseman, and he's got a good shot. He's a tough, right-handed, physical defenseman, and he's a big body. But I think they're like Kruger is taking his lessons from Bruce Cassidy or Claude Julien and putting Chara in front of the net with the Bruins, but Chara has decent hands.
He does. And actually, as you were saying it, Ristolainen had a chance where he had to just go to the far side of the net, but by the time he sort of lumbered around to the other side, he couldn't lift it, and Holtby just hit it right to, basically leg saved it to his defenseman. He got it right out. And
one thing I just thought of that I'm fairly sure about, I'm actually pretty sure, 100% sure about, in overtime, on the first unit, on the second unit, who was missing? Jeff Skinner was not on the first unit.
Yeah, I don't think I saw him. You're right.
The first unit was Ristolainen, Reinhart, Olofsson, and Eichel. The second was Eichel. He stayed out there with Cahoon, Dahlin, and Johansson.
Yeah.
The guy that they spent $9 million on isn't out there on one of the two power plays in an overtime game.
Why? Because they're worried about his defense.
I mean,
that's what it is.
I know, but that's idiotic.
It is idiotic, but these are problems that, for me, are arising for Kruger that he needs to address.
Okay, now switching to probably the most one of the consequential games of the night. There were others, but Florida goes into.
I do have some breaking news if you want it. Someone just sent me a message.
Go ahead.
And this is from Tom, TG9024. I thank you for this. So basically, the Austrian and German leagues have now canceled their season. They're not going to even have a champion because of the coronavirus. Tom is in Switzerland, and they're going to decide on Friday what to do. They played the last two games of the regular season in empty arenas. Then they postponed the playoffs because the government was forbidding the events with more than 1,000 spectators. And then, of course, he's asking me what the NHL will do, and we talked about that. So when you see that, Tom, the early part of the show, you'll kind of know. I don't think they're going to rush to anything.
I mean, it sounds to me, based on like what you just talked about, that unless there's a dramatic change in direction, I would think the next one to drop is probably the World Championships in Switzerland.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely. I mean, it
hasn't been announced yet, but I have a feeling that's what's working.
And I think, look, like for college hockey, as an example, the Frozen Four, they're going to wait till the last minute to decide on that because that is a big moneymaker with a lot of sponsors. It's in April, and I think the feeling is not because of the weather. I'm not going down that route. But just in 3 weeks, they may have a better handle on this. And why cancel that? That's what I think they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, the Frozen Four, but then how about the basketball? How about
all of that. They haven't talked about canceling those yet. And I think they're going to wait and see how we do as a country and those cities that they're in, like Michigan for the Frozen Four, how they do trying to contain the virus.
Okay.
That's it for virus talk.
Yes, done. I watched this game last night, Panthers and Blues, and the Blues were playing in the second back-to-back. Bennington was really, really good. Blues only got up 1-0. Panthers played fairly well defensively, which is the exception rather than the rule. Got a tying goal from Hoffman, and then got a goal in the third period from Brett Connolly and win 2-1. Chris Dreger played his third straight game, and from what we've, just doing a little digging online, it doesn't seem to be a choice where they're going Dreger over Bobrovsky. There's some sort of lower body injury with Bobrovsky, and that's why they're not playing him.
There's an LBI that I don't think everybody knows about. I don't think they've been very open about it, but he clearly has an LBI of some sort, and they don't really know when he's going to return. So whatever that means, I don't know how long Florida can keep this up, but that was a hell of a win for them. I was impressed that Sorella's in there. Remember him? I've talked about him. He was with Carolina, the Rangers, now with Florida. He's finally getting some playing time. Maybe they can gut it out, but I don't know if Dridger's up to that down the stretch. Like if he has to start playing even a back-to-back against some, I don't know what their schedule is like.
Well, with him in goal,
good teams.
With him in goal, they've earned 5 of a possible 6. So that's
I know, but that's right now. Like, we've seen guys go on runs. I mean, we could go back to other goalies that have done that.
I'm just looking at their schedule right now, pulling up their.
I mean, Anton Forsberg won NHL games, Mike.
Well, please.
He did.
I know he did. Okay. Let's see here. They play Dallas on the road, New Jersey at home, Detroit and Winnipeg 3 and 4 nights. That's
a tough thing right there, and especially that Winnipeg game. When is that the back-to-back part of it?
It's on the road in Detroit, on the road in Winnipeg.
Brutal, like that. They need to have Bob back.
The one thing that's an advantage for them is they're playing 2 of the worst teams in the league, in the Devils and the Red Wings. But still, I mean, Tampa Bay went into Detroit and lost. So
and the Rangers lost to the Devils. So
now they do the same thing the following week. They play a home game against Buffalo, then they play home against St. Louis on a Saturday, Monday, Tuesday at Toronto, at Ottawa. That's a tough schedule. I mean, in terms of a number of games, not in terms of opponents. I mean, Ottawa's not tough. Detroit's not tough. New Jersey's not tough. But the actual volume of games. Now, you could say that they're playing the same amount of games as Toronto, but Toronto is – I think theirs is a little spread out a little more. I think they're done with back-to-backs, Toronto. Just let me pull it up here. Toronto's got they have one more back-to-back and for the rest of the season. They play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday this week. Next week, the following week, play Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. So, there are
some fans. I want to mention this just because it's valid. Mm-hmm. There are some fans now that are thinking that the coach likes Dridger because he's won these games. And so here's Quenneville's quote about him last night. He was composed and very patient in the net. He takes care of business. That's a little telling, the takes care of business part. That is a message to his $10 million goalie.
Right. That's motivation. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Quenneville was always, press buttons. That's what he does.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the other games. Now, so just to clarify here, that game brought Toronto and Florida even in games played. Florida is 1 point behind the Leafs. The Leafs play Tampa Bay tonight. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But, last week they were 5 points up going on the West Coast road trip against 3 non-playoff teams, and everybody said it's over with. Well, it's not over with.
Well, it could be over with, but the way they weren't thinking.
Right. It's not over with. I mean, the Leafs have 6 of 7 games at home, but they have not been a good home team this year. They've actually given up a lot of points this year. And I hate to point to one game, but when it comes down to it at the end of the year, a game that they were leading 3-1 in the third period against Florida, and they lost 5-3. They missed the playoffs by a point.
That's the one you're circling?
That's one of many that I'm circling. The Arizona Coyotes, I think.
Wait, hold on. Okay. You didn't even tell us and tell the viewers that Morgan Riley is back.
When we talk about Tampa and the
Leafs. I thought you were talking about the Leafs now. Okay.
No. I was just talking about the race.
So this is like the entree to the Leafs. You haven't gotten to the main course. So Leafs get talked about twice compared to other teams. That's what you're telling me.
No,
that's what's happening.
No, it was in connection to.
No. I see through this little plan. Go ahead.
Whatever. The Arizona Coyotes may be done. They lost last night an important game, 4-2 to Winnipeg. They were up 2-0 in this game in the first period, and then allowed the Jets to come back with 4 straight. They're
in deep trouble, man.
Yeah, Nick Schmaltz had a couple goals. It's strange with this team, and now I don't know. I don't
know what to think about them anymore.
Yeah, no, goalie Frank. I'm not saying Arizona is a joke, but they may be done.
They could be done. I mean, this is a team that I thought was poised to make the playoffs. They played well. They got Darcy Kempner back. Taylor Hall's been marginal, and they can't score. And they did nothing at the deadline. If you want to tell me their deadline was Taylor Hall, I'll go back and fire back and say, you knew at the deadline Taylor Hall wasn't enough. Is that fair, Mike?
Yes.
They picked up a player that I can't remember his name at 2 minutes before the end of the deadline, but they didn't do anything.
Yeah, especially they had a month lead up to know that they hadn't done anything, and without Kemper, they were floundering. Now they got Kemper back, but
they can't score.
He can't do it all on his own. It's like they scored 2 goals. Okay, well when Winnipeg comes back, then you got to respond.
Yeah,
and they didn't respond. So now they're at 74 points. It's 7, and the key part here is the games played. They're at 74 points with 70 games played, so they have 12 games left, whereas Nashville is 2 points ahead of them. Vancouver's 2 points ahead of them. They have 14 games left. Minnesota is 3 points ahead of them. They have 13 games left.
Remember, John Chaika's got a new boss.
Yes, and
he probably was looking forward to making the playoffs, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not – this was not the plan. And again, we've questioned the moves that Chaika has made. We think he's made some good moves, but there's also been some ones that are sort of puzzling. And I didn't think that the Hall deal was puzzling if they thought they had a chance to get him re-signed. That quickly went by the wayside. Nobody expects him to stay there. And if they were going for it, they should have gone for it a little more because I think their defense was shorthanded for a while. Their offense definitely needed to still be boosted. So it's really strange that the Coyotes had sort of just floundered over the last couple months. Other games last night. Now, the result of this game isn't exactly important. Kings beating the Avalanche 3-1, but what happened in the game is important.
I do want to point this out. Sorry, I was just counting up. I didn't want you to go on, but I couldn't count quick enough.
Go ahead.
If they don't make the playoffs, this is their 8th consecutive year not making the playoffs. So that is second to Buffalo.
Are you talking about Arizona?
Arizona.
Well, they made the playoffs and they got to the conference finals in 2014.
2011-12 conference finals.
2012. Okay.
Right.
So they
8 years. So they're second to Buffalo that way.
Yeah.
I want to point that out. Okay.
No, the Kings Avalanche game, the result wasn't important. The injury to Nathan McKinnon was
massive.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear any detail on it. I think they said it was a lower body. They didn't
Well, I heard a little bit on the midday show. Legs got tied up. They wouldn't say it was a slew foot or not by Martin Firk, but he got tangled. So it doesn't sound great. And so we'll have to wait and see. But Jeff Marek pointed out something very good, and that was, hey, Nemesnikov had been playing right wing. Now he can go to center. So that was a good move by Joe Sakic. That team just has to go 500. They'll stay in second place and hope that McKinnon's back at some point in the playoffs. But we've got to give Joe Sakic credit here, because that is exactly why you make the trades that you make, in case something happens, so you have depth.
Right.
He's been able to do that all year. They've had guys filling in. Again, when I picked them to make it out of the West into the Stanley Cup, I did not make it with Francouz as the goalie. I definitely didn't make it with McKinnon out. Mm-hmm. And still, it is all possible, because it
is possible. But the thing I'm worried about here for their Stanley Cup aspirations is that, and they may all be back for when the playoffs start, which I believe will be April 7th.
Yeah, April 7th.
Right now, we're 4 weeks away from the beginning of the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And right now you have Rantanen, Kadri, McKinnon.
I thought Rantanen was back.
No, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Hold on. I'll look.
I know Kadri's not back.
No, he's not.
I know Grubauer's not back. And the only thing I'm worried, like, if they all come back.
No, he is out. He's still out.
He's still out. If they all come back, they're all coming back sort of rusty. They're all coming back not at 100%. And when you see teams that bring all these players back at the same time that were injured, I mean, everybody sucks it up when it comes to the playoffs, but you're not at 100%. You're not at your best. Nobody really is, but they're coming.
We have to mention Cale Makar too.
Cale Makar, exactly. Yeah,
but Makar's not skating yet, but Rantanen and Grubauer and Kadri are, so that's a good sign. Yeah, but you do grant the point that everybody coming back at the late hour, it's not the best situation. You want a team that's I mean that there has to be a little bit of concern with St. Louis with Tarasenko as well, because Tarasenko has been out the entire year. He's skating right now. He's starting to take contact right now. Here's the list of injuries, right? And again, this is why Joe Sakic may be the GM of the year, him or Yarmo. It's one or the other. Mm-hmm. McKinnon, Rantanen, but again, Rantanen has played a lot this year and has been out. McKinnon's played and has been out.
Right.
Kadri, Makar, Calvert, Burakovsky, Wilson, Grubauer.
Jesus Christ. I mean, Burakovsky's an important second, third line.
Yes. So is Wilson. Wilson can pop in goals too.
So is Calvert. I mean, yeah, those are important.
Calvert's very important, actually.
Those are important players. So, yeah, I mean.
But I still think somehow they're going to stay in it. I do.
Let's just say this, because more than likely the loser of that division is, the team that finishes in second is going to play Dallas.
Right.
Dallas is a tough matchup.
If Bishop's in there.
Yeah, if Bishop's in, I mean, well, even if
it's Khudobin, it's not as big a deal. He's good.
I mean, is there any? I mean, I haven't seen anything about Bishop being, hurt long term or anything of that nature. So go with Khudobin over Bishop. But yeah, what Funky said in the chat, Dallas
Bishop's starting tonight against the Rangers.
Yeah, Dallas can't score, but that game is conducive to the playoffs. They don't mind playing a 2-1 game.
Yeah, Bonus has those guys playing defense, and they'll try and wait it out, but they still need Bishop in net.
Right.
Because Khudobin, while he is a very good goalie, there's a lot more movements with Khudobin. You know what I mean? He's a lot. Yeah. He's like I don't want to say he's like a typical Russian goalie, but when he's making saves, there's a lot more rebounds. There's a lot more things going on where Bishop tends to suck everything up.
Let's just say this: if you're getting into a fantasy playoff hockey pool,
you're screwed right now, because if you have Bob, you don't know what to do. If you have Bishop, you're going to
no. I'm saying, like, if you're in the pool that I'm in, where you draft players for playoff fantasy hockey, you start off from scratch. You don't draft Dallas players because nobody scores. I mean, Ben and Sagan and maybe Klingberg, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 other players. It doesn't matter if they last into even if they get to the conference finals, they're not going to score that many points. They're going to play every game is going to be 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 3-1.
Yeah, that's true. If I'm drafting players, I'll draft like JT Compher because he'll get some surprising goals. I'll draft Francouz late and roll the dice with Francouz because he may end up being the guy all the way through.
Colorado can score, so
Yeah.
it makes sense for you to draft Colorado players.
Brian Graves would be a great guy to draft, actually.
But Dallas might beat them in the first round. But the thing is, Dallas players, nobody scores, so their offense is so spread out. So, okay, the only other game, the only remaining game last night was, as John Shannon said, painful to some of the teams competing for a wild card spot or positioning in the Pacific Division, because it was a 3-point game between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. Golden Knights win it 3-2 in overtime. I didn't see who got the goal, but I'm looking. Oh, Shea Theodore, who's got 13 goals.
Okay, but
13 goals. Wow.
This is where I'm going to quibble with the midday show and maybe Justin Bourne a little bit. Let's not pretend we didn't know Shea Theodore was good. Yeah. This didn't come out of nowhere. He had a great year last year.
3 years ago, when the Leafs were looking for a defenseman, everybody was mentioning Shea Theodore before the expansion draft. Everybody was mentioning Shea Theodore as the guy that they wanted the Leafs to go after. Because they had depth on defense and they didn't have enough room, like Manson or Theodore or somebody like that. Now they don't have that depth anymore. But yeah,
but look, last year he had 17-18 he had 29 points. Last year 12 goals, 37 points. This year 13 goals, 46 points. It's a natural progression for a 24-year-old defenseman like of his caliber. This is a natural progression. I don't even think it's the coaching change and him playing a few more minutes. I think he was going to do this anyhow.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I always thought that he was of the pickup.
But I'm gonna.
Right, of the pickups that they made in the expansion draft and afterward, they got Nate Schmidt. Nate Schmidt was, Colin Miller. Theodore is the one I thought was the most legitimate top 4 of all of them, because he was big and he has really good tools. So I mean, I didn't see it. I'm not surprised at that.
I'm not either.
Now, this was not good news for Edmonton. McDavid was out of the lineup with an illness, not the coronavirus.
But they still have Mikko Koskinen, Mike.
No comment. But this moves Vegas 3 points ahead of the Oilers.
Impossible. How'd that happen?
I don't know. I mean, hey, remember, I'm the one who's still saying that they're going to miss the playoffs. So
I mean, you're going to die on that hill, I think. But
why not? Why not? What the hell do I have to lose? Okay.
Your reputation, whatever. Okay.
Reputation, please. Okay. Let's see. Davy Jones in the chat here. We'll take some questions and
Davy Jones locker.
I think Chaika has done a decent job bringing in Kemper, Kessel, Soderberg, signing Keller, Schmaltz, Dvorak to affordable multi-year well, okay.
Except one thing, no playoffs.
Yeah, they haven't won. I mean, I like getting Keller signed long-term. They got Ekman Larson locked up. They got Chychrun on a long-term deal. He's been very good at being proactive. The problem is they haven't won.
I mean, it's like me saying, hey, I really like that Ford Fiesta that I bought. I only spent like $6,000 and I've got like, 25,000. Then all of a sudden when it hits 50,000, the thing's dead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not just completely destroying him, but I mean,
it's 8 years. I mean, however you want to look at it, it's hard for me to come up with a positive spin to tell you that it's good or there's anything positive with Arizona when they haven't made the playoffs in 8 years.
Yeah, I mean, believe me,
if they don't make it this year.
Yeah, fans in Buffalo have dealt with this for 9 years. They're ready, I think they're ready to just say, can I find another team? That's how bad it is.
Again, $3.6 million available in cap space. No moves beyond Taylor Hall that made a difference when it mattered. All those other things you made are valid points, but when you had to have the rubber meet the road, they didn't do it. And they didn't do it because they have a budget and they didn't want to go beyond Taylor Hall. So that's the way it goes.
El Guapo asks an interesting question that I don't know the answer. Maybe you do, Russ. Do teams, venues have insurance policies that if they have to play in an empty arena?
I haven't heard. I don't know if that exists or not. I imagine it would be expensive if it did, because then you'd probably have to go with like whatever the average gate revenue is. But I haven't heard.
Richard asks, prediction tonight, Boston versus Philly.
Well, I'm going to say Boston's going to win 5-4 in overtime. It's a little high scoring. I know Carter Hart's been great in net at home. I think with Boston, with their defensive loss, it's going to be a problem. But they still have a lot of guys. They're going to still play hard. I think they're going to figure out how to squeeze out a point in this one. And Hart hasn't had a bad game in a while, so I think maybe he's due.
Remember, one half of their top four are out, Krug and Carlo.
Right. But I'm still going to give it to him because, the Flyers aren't going to continue the streak forever, and it wouldn't shock me if it's a team like Boston that comes in and does it.
Cameron Young asks, that's not him.
That's not him.
There we go. The line moved up. So what do you see the Buffalo Sabres doing in the offseason? They shouldn't be this bad at this point of their, quote, rebuild. Well, I've been fairly clear. I mean, this is the thing. The first most important decision for their organization is what is the future of Jason Botterill. I thought there was no chance that Botterill would get fired at the beginning of the year unless they had as bad a season as they did the previous year. It hasn't been as bad, but it's close. They've really not played well over the last 2.5 months. The only thing that was positive with this team was, the advancing of Rasmus Dahlin and Eichel, who is, a top 10 player in this league. That's not enough for fans in Buffalo. Now, the thing is that the one consistent thing about the Sabres has been their chaos. Whether it's been they fire a general manager, they fire a coach, they make a big trade, and nothing seems to change. So I don't know, and I think Russ disagrees with this. I don't know whether Terry Pegula and Kim Pegula are going to allow Jason Botterill, who's been on the job for 3 years, to go out and spend the $23 million in cap space that they have going into this summer. There are not many teams that have that kind of cap space.
I know, but they allowed it before.
Right, but that's what once bitten. What's the old line?
But you're basically telling me they've learned from it, and from other things that I've seen them do, I'm going to tell you I don't think they have.
Fool me once, shame on you.
And I'm not saying Botterill can't do a good job. I just think they may give him a chance to do that over the summer. Yeah.
I mean, the worst thing that they could do is you get to keep your job, but we're going to put strings on you. Right. Now, if they do that, he should quit.
But he won't.
But
he won't because it's his first GM job. You can't do it.
Right. If Botterill stays, then I think you're going to see a major trade. Like maybe Sam Reinhart. Maybe Ristolainen.
Yeah, well, I think Reinhart does get traded. I've been saying that all year.
Reinhart is looking for a payday, and I don't think that they want to give him he's 2 years away from being an unrestricted free agent. I don't think that they want to sign him to a 6 or 7 year contract.
I mean, he would basically get right around Kreider money.
Yeah, probably $6.5 to $7 million on a 6 or 7 year deal.
Yep.
Okay, Terry, Mike, and Russ, if you can, which teams are needing to be torn down and start a rebuild next season?
Anaheim.
I think Anaheim's already started.
I know, but I mean,
San Jose.
They have already started, but probably not to the right degree. San Jose, I don't think is going to do it. They need to, but I don't think they will.
Option. I mean,
no, they have an option, Mike. Don't say no. I don't think they're going to do that fully. I don't, but I think they should, but I don't think they're going to.
I think Minnesota should, and I think the signs.
I see Minnesota. They've already. Go ahead.
The sign that they wanted to do that was the Parise trade that fell apart at the last.
Right, but now what happens if they make the playoffs? You're not going to do it.
They still trade Parise.
They might, but they're not going to do a full rebuild.
I'm saying they should, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure they should. I think just trading Parise might have solved a lot of ills for them. It's not like they're so old. I mean, they've got young guys like Cunnin. Dumba's still young. Brodin's not old. Like they have.
Let's go.
They look like their oldest guy, other than Eric Stahl.
Let's go through it quickly here of the teams that might be might be on the precipice of needing a rebuild. I mean, Buffalo's been in a rebuild.
Isn't that what we've been doing?
What?
Stating teams that are on the precipice of the rebuild. Like that's the question.
What's
different about the way you're phrasing it? I'm not getting it.
In an organized way. I was going to go through the divisions quickly.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I mean, Buffalo's already in a rebuild. So is Detroit. So is Ottawa. I don't think anybody else in the Atlantic Division. Maybe you could say Montreal. I think Montreal should.
They're not going to.
They're not going to, but should they? Yeah.
Should they? Not there yet with them.
In the Metro, well, New Jersey really is right now. And other than them, who is there anybody in that division? I mean, Washington, Pittsburgh, they're contenders. Philadelphia is on the way up. Columbus. I mean, yeah, I don't think there's anybody in that division. The Central Division.
Well, no, wait. Did you say the Devils or you didn't?
I said the Devils are already in a rebuild.
They haven't really announced that, though. So I think
I don't think
they're playing Corey Schneider. So it's hard to say they're in a rebuild when you're playing Corey Schneider. Is that fair?
True. But
I think they have to do it. But if they're playing Corey Schneider, they're not in a rebuild.
But, I mean, Blackwood has been their goalie for most of the year.
No, and he is still their goalie. But if you haven't fully moved on from Corey Schneider, you're not admitting that there's any kind of rebuild. And I saw he was in the other night. Let's see how many games he's played lately.
Well, he just got called up at the deadline, like about 2 weeks ago, 2.5.
Right. So he called up 2 weeks ago. I mean, he's played 13 for the year. So he's probably played 2 games already since his call up.
In the Central Division, the only one I would say needs to be rebuilt is the Blackhawks.
Yeah, that's so desperately in need of it. It's like if there was a team that was a poster child for a rebuild, it's that team. Cap trouble, aging stars, they got all of it.
But the problem is that the 2 big stars are not washed up. They're not
right, and they don't want to go back to the Kyle Calder era when nobody shows up.
Right, and see that's the thing. They want to rebuild.
They're definitely afraid of that.
Yeah, they want to rebuild on the fly, and they want to rebuild with Taves and Kane still staying there. And I think that's almost impossible because you can't excuse me. You can't.
We just hope Mike will be on the show tomorrow. But anyhow, go ahead. Sorry.
You can't unload Keith and Seabrook and those contracts. They take on bad contracts like Andrew Shaw, which I still don't understand why.
They do. Again, they look at it, and I think, honestly, if you ask me why they did deals like that, I think they talk to Kane and Taves and ask them what they're missing and try and fulfill that. I do. Do you think that?
Yes, I do.
I wanted to say that before you just felt like you had to really jump in with something from Funky Cold Zadina, because it's like I was talking and you couldn't wait to read his little blurb. So go ahead, Mike.
He says Mike is coughing on Tang. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm coughing, but I'm drinking Tang.
It doesn't work.
Yes, it does. And now I have. It's like WebMD here. Michael, do you have a fever?
I mean, to be fair, have you taken your temperature?
Yes.
Okay, so he does not have a fever.
I do not have a fever.
Or a bad thermometer. Is it a digital thermometer, Mike?
No, it's an old one where you have.
Oh, maybe you need to get a digital thermometer.
Okay. Davy Jones asks Doug Wilson, will he be fired in April?
No. Nope.
Yeah,
he got a first-round pick for Barclay Goodrow.
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't. Ooh, wait a second here. We have some breaking news. Oh, never mind. It's not that breaking.
I think that went a long way into saving him again.
Yeah, I mean, remember, he's loved. He's loved as a GM there, and he's done a great job throughout the years. This was inevitable because they had a bunch of, they were going to run into this eventually with Pavelski getting old, with Thornton getting old, with Marlowe getting old. They let Marlowe walk, then he came back. Pavelski went to Dallas, and Couture got hurt. I really question any team that has Evander Kane as a key player, but they brought him in and he was effective there, and they gave up a package to get him, so they determined it made sense to sign him. But they have some prospects in that organization. I think they can come back, but it's definitely going to be a retooling situation.
Listen, the minute UMass is out of the playoffs, they're going to try and get John Leonard signed. He's got, like I said, he's got 37 points in 33 games, 27 goals in 33 games. Those are the numbers we thought Caulfield would put up, Mike, and he's put that up. So there's that. If you look at the team, guys like Noah Gregor, he's actually done okay down the stretch here. They've the defenseman who I have on my own team, I forget who Jacob Middleton has filled in. They have players. They've stashed a lot of players in college and overseas, the Sharks, and Leonard is one of them. They have others. And so that's where I think they could start supplementing their team besides making some trades. I mean, Melker Karlsson, maybe they'll re-sign him. I don't know what they're going to do with him. What do you think?
I thought they were going to trade him because I thought the center market was so thin at the deadline. I was surprised that they kept him. Now, if they keep him, then I think they have probably a decent chance of re-signing him if they really want. I mean, if they didn't want him to come back, then I think they would have traded him. And them not trading him makes me feel that they want to re-sign him. And probably, I mean, Northern California is not the worst place to play hockey. So, I mean, I'm sure.
And LeBanc, I still think they'll re-sign, and he'll come in at a decent price for them, a little bit more maybe because, he took less this year. So he's still a developing player. He didn't have the greatest year, but he didn't have a bad year. I'm just going through their guys.
Well, let me just because somebody was talking about this. Well,
there's one more guy.
Go ahead.
Scott Reedy's having a big year too. He's playing at the University of Minnesota. He's got 15 goals in 35 games. He was with the NTDP. Maybe that's a guy they call into the AHL. I think they're going to start to do that and try and get some of these guys over, out of college and stuff, starting to play pro hockey so that they could start moving forward.
Funky was asking or saying about the Barclay Goodrow trade that it was as dumb as when the Predators gave up a first-round pick for Paul Gaustad. I actually think the Gaustad trade was worse because Gaustad was a limited third, fourth line.
He was limited the minute they made the trade.
He was a good face-off guy and a good penalty killer.
That's it.
That's basically all he is. Goodrow is an effective third, fourth line guy.
And here's one last thing, Mike.
Yeah.
Sasha Chmelevski, who I've liked since his days with the 67s, with San Jose Barracuda, has played 41 games, 11 goals, 25 points. He might be a guy that has a chance to either get a call-up midseason next year or a chance to make the team out of camp. They have guys.
And didn't he play really good at the World Juniors?
He played great at the World Juniors. He was one of the best guys, actually.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, and they were talking about this on Hockey Central earlier, was the fact that Julian Breezeball recognized that they were talking about the Leafs and the Lightning and how similarly they were constructed, and that both of them were, as Jeff Merrick had mentioned, maybe a few years ahead of where they think the NHL game will go, meaning very skilled, very speedy, not a lot of toughness. Whereas Tampa Bay recognized halfway through the year that they needed to add those sort of gritty guys to get through the playoffs, to have success in the playoffs. And that's why they paid the high price to get Coleman and to get Goodrow, along with a guy like they signed like Maroon, who had a good success for St. Louis in the playoffs last year. The Leafs really didn't do that. They traded for Kyle Clifford, but other than that, they really didn't add that veteran sandpaper type guy. And the one guy is not going to make a difference. It has to be 2, 3, 4 type of players. If the Leafs fall short in the first round this year and Tampa Bay has success in part because of these guys, then I think you see the blueprint of what Kyle Dubas is going to have to follow in Toronto. It means adding role players to those important core players, because sometimes the role players are more important than the core players.
So they'll call Tanner Glass out of retirement. Is that Brandon Prust?
Bickle. They got him on speed dial.
Brandon Prust. He was practically a Leaf.
He almost was. All right.
I do have breaking news. a worker has tested positive for a Waffle House in Canton, Georgia. That's probably the least surprising story we've heard so far.
He's tested positive for what?
Coronavirus, sorry.
Oh, great. Great.
So they're closing that one. My suggestion is get to the Waffle House while you can. Go ahead, anyhow.
Order the triple stack of pancakes.
I mean, they do have good food, I got to be honest.
Games tonight. Most important, at least in my estimation, is Leafs and Lightning. Morgan Riley comes back for the Leafs. Victor Hedman will not be in the lineup for the Lightning. I'm not sure. I think it was into some sort of lingering lower body injury, but he's not playing tonight. Stamkos is also out of the lineup for them. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a cakewalk for the Leafs because the Lightning had lost to the Red Wings, but they had beaten the Bruins. So it's this is going to be a challenging game for Toronto tonight.
This could be the game that the Leafs win 5-2, though, because nobody's expecting it.
Yeah, Funky, I can't tell you. I have no idea. This team is such a roller coaster that it's tough to predict what they're going to do. Predators, Canadians, Penguins, Devils, Bruins, Flyers, Hurricanes, Red Wing. A lot of games tonight. Rangers play the Stars. Now, are they starting Shesterkin?
That's a good question. Let's see.
Okay, you looked that up. Islanders play the Canucks, and Senators and Ducks with the meaningless game of the night.
You know what? Every game means something, Mike. Come on.
Both of them are out of the playoffs. What does it mean?
It's for contracts, for pride. Come on, Mike.
Oh,
Shesterkin is in net.
Okay. So
if he has another bad game, they should put him back on the bench and put Lundqvist back in. And it's not because Lundqvist is better, and it's not because Shesterkin isn't good. It's just because he probably needs more time to heal.
Cover from the injury.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, right now, the Rangers are at 76 points with 68 games played. I think the only team they have a realistic chance of catching is Columbus, who's 5 points ahead, but they have 2 games in hand. Carolina is at 79, but has 1 game in hand on them. So, I mean, like you said, it's going to probably take another week to sort of filter out, like, the games played.
Yeah, just scoreboard watching. It's a little early because there's still too much math going on.
Yeah. With Toronto, it's easy. There's one team that they're focused on, and that's Florida, because honestly, they're at 79 points. They'd be in the second wild card spot with Carolina if they fall into the wild card race. But right now, I think it's either third place or they're out of the playoffs. So not exactly encouraging, but we'll discuss that tomorrow. We should have Kevin Allen on the show tomorrow. Thank you, Russ Cohen. For Russ, I am Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.